Hello and welcome back to the 100 Days series of Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life, where my end goal is to perfect the game by collecting all 88 wonders and completing the encyclopedia. If you haven't watched the first 100 days, you definitely should, and that video will be linked in the description. Before we get back to Forgotten Valley, I'm going to do the typical YouTuber thing and ask all of you guys and gals here to subscribe to my channel and enable notifications. Around 86% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if that's you, you should do that, and I'd be a very happy boy. Also, if you could smash the like button on this video to help me manipulate the YouTube recommendation algorithm, that would be awesome. I don't insert mid-roll ads in my videos so that all of my content is as viewer-friendly as possible. So, helping me out with the engagement lets me know that you're enjoying this ad-free content. If you really want to make sure that this video gets recommended to absolutely everyone, you should leave a comment and let me know if you would rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck. And of course, you need to explain your reasoning. I gotta know why you selected which option. Alright, enough of that nonsense. Let's get into my next 100 days in Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. I pick up on day 101 by, of course, putting on some autumn-themed threads and getting into the crop fields. Out in the amazing field, I get a whole bunch of fall crops planted and subsequently watered. Of course, I need to say hello to all my animals, and I totally forgot how awesome that the golden milking tool is. Then it's over to the coop to show some love to my feathered friends. Of course, I had to check out the harvest sprites and pick up the first recipe of this chunk of 100 days, kakiyagi tempura. Then it's over to the dig site to look for some more golden artifacts. San and Takakura posted some requests today, so I picked those up and ran over to the kitchen to whip up some heartwarming soup. I completed San's request for a hybrid crop, and then caught Pui trying to shake down Garrett at the bridge. Takakura gets his soup, and I finished day 101 by doing some fishing. Even though a lot of you guys and gals told me that I don't have to, it feels wrong not to water the trees. So I started day 102 by doing exactly that. I gather some golden wool for my sheep friends, then visit Cole to take his lunch money in a game of territory capture. No one is safe from me in this game, as I also beat Charlie while I'm at it. I pick up another recipe from the harvest sprites, then do some fishing down at the beach with Gordy. I end day 102 by collecting some coconut fruit by shaking the tree in the orchard. Day 103 begins by using my golden watering can to get all my plants nice and hydrated. Then, it's off to the pasture to milk all of my animals and shear off even more wool from my fluffy boys. These birds go through food super quick, so I get that refilled, then decide that this coop isn't big enough for 2 roosters, and get plump sold off to the highest bidder. Since Van is in town today, I hit up the processing room and make some cheese and butter, and then I give Luna some carrot seeds that I was gifted earlier for completing some requests. The harvest sprites give me the rare salad recipe, and then it's over to Van's stall to sell my produce for a whopping 128,000 G. I could not pick up this outfit that Van is selling, and I also exchanged my silver fishing rod for a golden one and purchased the golden clippers. Now I finally have an entire row of tools that are golden. I instantly put my new fishing rod to use down at the beach, and then finish this day off by watering my crops once again. I start off day 104 in the chicken coop by giving some love to my birds, and then collecting a golden egg. Pasta is finally grown up, so I get him sold away. Then it's over to the pasture to use my new golden shears, which aren't as powerful as the golden milker, to great disappointment. In the kitchen, Luna gets herself some more seeds, then I make my way down to the dig site to look for more expensive trinkets. As I was doing some fishing at the goddess pond, I pulled up my first ever new fish with the golden rod, a bonnie tongue, which coincidentally happened to be the huge variation, instantly completing that fish in the encyclopedia. On day 105, I throw on my newly purchased outfit, and your boy is just looking dripped down from head to toe, just icy. I completely forgot today was the Harvest Festival, so I grab a durian from storage, pick up some more tree fruits, and hit up the dig site before heading on over to the layover inn to show Lou what I've got for the pot. Hopefully everyone at the function loves some stinky durian soup. That afternoon, I fished up the beach water dweller that only a goldenrod can get, a langoust, then got myself a delicious coffee at Gavin's Cafe. Plop the duck has finally come of age, so I get him sold, and then I finish this day off by milking all my animals a second time. I'm right back in the chicken coop feeding these hungry birds on day 106. All these crops in the amazing field are coming in quite nicely. Then it's over to the shipping bin, where my ability to do math is tested. I've learned that if you want to make the most money using tree fruits, you need to turn first and second gen tree fruits into seeds using the seed maker, and sell the fruits of the third gen trees, since 2 third gen seeds are priced ridiculously lower than a fully grown third gen fruit. So a general rule of thumb is that first and second gen tree fruits go into the seed maker, and third gen fruits are sold as is. That being said, I did end up turning one of my Granny Smith apples into seeds to plant and finish off my orchard, since it's the most profitable third gen tree fruit. I got myself a golden fork down at the dig site, then accepted some requests from Cole and Gary. These requests were pretty easy to complete, as Gary only wanted a fish and Cole only needed some milk, of which I have plenty of both. I finished day 106 by harvesting my first bundle of crops for this set of 100 days, then fishing down by the bridge where I pulled up an unagi, which was the final fish I needed to catch every last type of fish in the game. And I collected my 56th wonder. On the morning of day 107, Takakura wakes me up to let me know that he's given Luna a cow-shaped piggy bank and has been letting her help out around the farm in exchange for some money. By all means, Takakura, you keep giving her that cash. Over at the crop fields, I collect some yams and sweet potatoes that are nice and ripe. And then I give all of my large animals some cuddles in the pasture. I spend the afternoon doing some artifact hunting in the dig site, and officially catch every fish in the game by reeling up a king masu. The only reason I got that wonder the other day is because Pui gifted me a king masu on day 98. So now I finally got one legit. I finish off this day by, once again, giving my crops their second water. The 8th day of the season means a van is coming to town. So I'm out in the pasture getting some milk, and then it's over to the orchard to collect some Granny Smiths to start day 108. Milk is great to sell, but cheese and butter almost always sell for more. The rule of thumb is you turn everything but star milk into cheese and butter. So I get all that milk transformed. I pick up another recipe from the Harvest Sprites, then give Luna some more seeds, before hanging out with Garrett by the river and doing some fishing. With all these items to sell, I was able to finesse almost 150,000 G from Van, so I decided to take some of those profits and finally buy the Springs in the Air music record. I ran back home to put that in the record player, then it's out to the crop fields to harvest a whole bunch of ripe second-gen hybrid crops. The rest of the day was spent hanging out with Gary and Flora, doing even more fishing by the bridge. It's starting to get a little frigid in Forgotten Valley, so I threw on my winter coat for day 109. It might be rude, but I need the wool from my sheep, even if it's getting cold outside. Of course, the plants get watered, and all the ripe crops, which as we get closer and closer to the end of the season are plentiful, get cut down and collected. That afternoon, I was finally able to catch a lil unagi, which was surprisingly difficult, and I had more crops ready for harvest. So I got those sized out. Then it's over to the dig site, where I decided to collect the gem soils, even though I have really no use for them nowadays. I collected some artifacts with Flora and Carter, and finished the day by doing some fishing, looking for that elusive, huge unagi. Day 110 and the final day of autumn in year 3 begins by collecting some milk under the falling snow. Even though there's moisture in the air, I still need to get these crops watered and the ripe straw blueies harvested. Then it's over to everyone's favorite plant, Vinny. After doing some chatting to get my friendship back up, I started creating some more third-gen hybrid crops. Starting with crop 21, which is renamed to a yellow lamp. Crop 22 becomes a purple lamp. Crop 35 is obviously a football. Crop 20 is a blue bulb. Crop 13 looks like a symbol to me. and crop 7 is apparently a soramame. Crop 28 looks like a piece of candy. Crop 31 gets to be called a teacup. Crop 29 definitely looks like a cookie. Crop 16 is a delicious red onion. Crop 39 is an artichoke, but that didn't fit in the text box, so artichoke it is. Crop 38 looks like one of those pumpkins that I would never eat. And if crop 35 is a football, crop 37 needs to be a hand egg. Basketball didn't fit in the text box, so crop 36 is the rock. Crop 33 becomes a disco ball with one L. Crop 34 is called a chochine, since that's what these little paper lanterns are called. Crop 32 is obviously a teapot. Crop 30 looks like a decadent donut. Crop 27 is a castanet. Crop 26 looks like an ocarina. I seriously considered calling crop 23 a gat, but ultimately went against my better judgment and called it a mandrake. And finally, we end the hybrid extravaganza with crop 18, which I affectionately call an Ayo. If you know, you know. With all that hybridizing out of the way, I've officially collected 20 rare hybrids in my 57th wonder. The rest of this incredibly long day is capped off by collecting some artifacts at the dig site, harvesting some ripe crops in the field, putting them into the seed maker, fishing down at the beach, and then by making one more 3rd gen hybrid, crop 24, which becomes ginger. If you guys and gals have any questions about why I named these crops what I named them, or how to make them yourself, I'm following a guide that I'll have linked in the description. You can also leave a comment, and I'm happy to answer that. The first day of winter, day 111, begins by throwing on my favorite Christmas sweater and getting out into the field to plant some crops. I get everything watered and harvest the remaining ripe crops from the autumn planting, and then get a whole bunch of sheep washed up. After that, I hit up the request board to collect some errands from Lou and Garrett. As I was running back to the farm, I found Luna going the opposite way with her piggy bank that Takakura gave her. I went to intercept her, but she's far too busy to have a conversation. Of course, I'm gonna follow her, and she ends up having a very brief conversation with Gary by the bridge, before ending up on Vesta's farm. Apparently, Lumina has been sick, so Luna exchanges her hard-earned savings for a healthy tomato. Apparently, Lumina wasn't actually sick and was just having a coughing fit, which Luna interpreted as being ill. But this was still a very cute cutscene nonetheless. I'm back in the kitchen as I fix up a fish stew, and then I go complete Lou's request for a hybrid crop. This was my 50th completed request, awarding me with my 58th wonder. Now that it's wintertime, I had to say hello to my friend Muku Muku before fishing up a large king masu. I finished this day off by completing Garrett's request for that fish stew I made earlier. I had some super bad luck to start day 112, as not only is this chick a boy, but the duckling that was also born today is also a boy. Their names don't matter, but I went ahead and got Pedro sold off, and then I'm back in the field harvesting some ripe blue tomatoes and shaking down all the fruit from the fig tree. I caught Luna doing some fishing with one of my old rods down by the river, and then decided to do some more 3rd gen hybrid combos. Crop 15 is some fresh garlic. Crop 14 looks to be a whistle. Crop 12 becomes a maraca. Crop 8 is apparently ginseng, and crop 5 is definitely a pea. Once again, check out that link in the description to find the guide that I used for all my hybrid crops. I spent a good part of the afternoon fishing, then decided it's time to start tackling some recipes in the kitchen, starting with carpaccio. I made a caprese salad, mashed potatoes, a Cobb salad, grape pie, strawberry pie, melon pie, blue sky pie, ice cream, orange punch, blue jam, a lovely smoothie, fruit punch, fruit juice, a sweet smoothie, some thick juice, which I'm happy to say includes peaches, a sandwich, blue curry, and finally a mushroom gratin. With that, I've made a total of 40 dishes for my 59th and 60th wonders. Day 113 is another van day, so it begins by watering my crops in the field and harvesting some ripe carberries. Luna gets yet another seed, and then I say hello to some ducks and chickens at the coop. Because it is a van day, I am spending a load of time in the processing room, turning milk into butter and cheese. And I can't forget to butter up everyone's favorite rotund retail salesman. Like the gem soils from the autumn season, I really don't need to pick up the up seeds in the winter season. But this is your reminder that you should pick them up if you don't have the fertilizer spreader just yet. After showing Van all my goods, I'm able to negotiate a sell price of just over 143,000 G. Then it's back to the river to do more fishing. I finish off day 113 by collecting some oranges and peaches from my orchard. I start off day 114 in the pasture giving 𝐕𝐵𝗲𝗰 some love and cuddles, and then it's time to do my daily watering of crops and a singular tree. I know, I don't have to do it, but it's weird seeing the soil be so pale. The harvest sprites teach me how to make the mountain bowl, and then I go off and collect another upseed by Gordy's trailer. This short day is capped off by doing some relaxing fishing down at the beach. My personal favorite festival, the Starlight Festival, is today, day 115. So I get out into the pasture and take care of my fuzzy boys, then collect some figs and persimmons that have fallen from the trees in the orchard. Once again, these chickens have torn through their food, so I make sure to replace that before doing some golden artifact hunting over at the dig site. Fast forward to the Starlight concert that night, and we see the annual shooting stars. This year, like every year, I wish for Luna to take up an interest in farming and then go straight home and hit the hay. Luna woke me up on day 116, saying that she's going to feed the barn animals. I guess my wish last night actually worked. Unfortunately, she won't do that and water the crops, so I'm back in the fields to do that. Honestly, there wasn't too much to do today, so I spent most of it trying to catch a huge king masu over by the waterfall. Another chick has been hatched the morning of day 117, and I got lucky with a hen this time around, who I named Pixie. Now that I have 8 hens, I can finally sell off our first ever rooster, Preston, who we got all the way back over 100 days ago on day 14. I can't get too sentimental though, since I have some sheep to shear in the barn and some mushrooms to eat in the forest. I pick up the rare stew recipe from the Harvest Sprites, and then present Carter with my golden fish I found in his dig site, which he still doesn't see any value in. I got double lucky today, as not only did I get a duckling hatched, but this one is also a girl who I named Pongo. The rest of the day is spent fishing on the bridge, where I was finally able to reel in that huge unagi. I started day 118 as I do most days, by watering crops and harvesting the ones that have become ripe overnight. What's special about today is that one of my 3rd gen lamp crops is finally starting to come in. Another special thing about today is that Van is in town, so I'm in the processing room to make cheese and butter for those extra financial gains. I totally didn't forget to check the request board on days 116 and 117, so I could only pick up one errand from Tay, which was easy enough to complete. I was able to sell off all of my goods to Van for 133,000 G, as I save up for that 1 million G teddy bear. I spent the rest of the evening doing even more fishing down at the beach, where I reeled in a huge langoust. These plants are always really thirsty. I wish the snow weather condition actually watered them. I mean, there is moisture in the air. At least I can see some neat 3rd gen crops coming in on day 119. But it's been a while since I checked on the chickens, so I make sure my feathered friends are doing well, and then it's off to create some more fertilizer. It would appear that the animals of the pasture are eating a lot of grass. So I give the area a nice splattering of fertilizer to get the grass growing again, and then hit up the Harvest Sprites who don't have any new recipes for me. I guess I have to harvest even more 3rd gen crops. I spent some time looking for golden fish in the dig site, and speaking of fish, I reeled up the huge king masu that I've been looking for. With this fish, I now have a nice little star next to every fish that you can get with a golden rod in the encyclopedia. Back at the farm, my perp lamb crop is looking very nice and juicy, so I get it cut down to end the day. Day 120, the final day of the year, is super exciting, as after I water these crops, I can harvest my first ever 𝐲𝐲𝐬 crop, everyone's favorite white, plump vegetable. Since today is the aforementioned final day of year 3, I decided to spend a lot of it with Luna. We did some fishing down by the river, but I was shortly interrupted by harvesting some crops, including a cookie, castanet, and donut. But then it was back to more father-daughter time in the forest, as we spent the afternoon inspecting the surrounding area and just enjoying the serenity offered by this magical place. Then we took a nice stroll and ended up back home, where we finished off the day. As we move into Chapter 4, Luna is still very interested in music. We even catch her singing a song with Gustafa down by his yurt. It seems she really has a knack for music, and Lumina asks me if I think she's found her passion. Now, I'm not one to push anything on my child that they don't enjoy, so I agree. Unfortunately, time waits for no man or woman, and Luna has grown up in front of our very eyes. She has turned from the cutest little bean sprout to the most persnickety of teenagers. Of course, she's still one with nature and loves to spend time with Poncho on the farm. Obviously, this house is starting to feel a little bit small, so I built on a private room for myself and Lumina. Getting back on the farm in earnest on day 121 means putting on the classic farmer's outfit and checking out the wrinkles that I've gained over the years. Any concerned parent will end up doing a bit of snooping on their child, so I read through Luna's diary as she starts to question my priorities as a father. Sadly, a lot of my crops didn't grow in time, so I'm left with the depressing task of clearing out the dead plants in the morning before making sure my cows and my goat are adequately milked. Maybe Luna's a little bit right about my priorities. The best thing about Chapter 4 is that I now have access to the requests that will reward me with goddess level tools. So I made sure to grab all of those requests off the board from Vesta, Pui, Romana, Gary, Tay, and Kate, and finish off my farm chores for the day. I get all the spring crops planted and watered, then hit up the chicken coop to feed the birds, which I'm slowly running out of feed for, so I get 30 units purchased, which should last me for a good long while. Vesta requested a scarlet salad, so I'm in the kitchen whipping that up, along with a strawberry shortcake for Kate. Some of my 3rd gen crops that survived the season transition are ready for harvest. This teacup, teapot, and candy crop should open up some more recipes from the harvest sprites. But before anything else can happen, I run into Molly, who is once again using me as free therapy. Apparently, her new boyfriend found out her age and decided to dump her. It's always so sad to see these cutscenes. I really hope she does find a man or woman soon. I did some more running around town and ended up seeing Luna, Romana, and Gary having a little chat at the Manor Gardens. They talk about getting older, but hearing Luna play music, like Lumina did, brings back some nice memories, so they go inside to play the piano. I originally came up here to start the New Year's Festival, so I get that underway by giving Sebastian the blue sky pie I made. Now I can focus on getting these goddess tools. Starting with Tay. I give him the butter he requested, and he tells me a story about some village in the mountains who were amazing ranchers, and how he got this milker from them. Anyways, I happily accept his gift and then finish up Pui's request for a golden object. I don't know where Pui found a goddess sickle, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Speaking of gifts, Kate is next on the chopping block. She gets herself the delicious strawberry shortcake I whipped up in exchange for the goddess clippers. Hopefully these clippers have an interesting mechanic like the golden milker did. Speaking of milk, I head down to the cafe to get an oat milk latte and find Gary, who needed a fish. My reward for that hot, stinky pocket fish was the goddess fishing rod, which is beautifully adorned. Some might call it tacky, but I really enjoy the gold and cyan colors. I finish off the request train with the easier ones I picked up today, by giving Vesta the scarlet salad I made, and Baddock a fruit tree fruit. Then it's over to the pasture to test out my new toys. The goddess milker increases the radius from the golden version, which is pretty nice. But more importantly, I picked up 4 wonders for getting those tools, taking my total to 65 wonders. I spent the evening using my new goddess rod at the spring and ended up reeling in a golden axe. I guess this weapon belonged to the goddess underneath the pond, but she let me keep it, so I stuck it right on the mantle above the TV. Getting this item also got me my 66th wonder. Only 22 more to go. And just like that, I'm finally on day 122, where Lumina offers to water the fields for me, which is well appreciated. I also get to use my goddess shears for the first time, which double the yield of wool. Doubling my profits for one strawberry shortcake? I'll take that deal every time. Using my new fishing rod down by the beach netted me another neat object, a letter in a bottle. Turns out this letter is from my own daughter Luna, where she's definitely in the middle of some teenage angst. Another cast of the rod had me reel in another suspicious object. According to Tay, who was just watching me fish for some reason, this is the mythical sword of the hero. I don't really have much use for this since I'm but a humble farmer, so I mount it next to the axe I found last night. However, a bunch of good things did come out of catching that sword. I was able to finish up the fish section of the encyclopedia, and I got my 67th and 68th wonders. The last couple days have been so busy I haven't been to the dig site since the turn of the chapter, so I head on down to Carter's place of business and unearth a golden crown and the special stone tablet for this year. Obviously, Carter only cares about the weird stone that I found, and not the literal gem-encrusted golden cast crown. But he did tell me that the tablet I found last year translated to the phrase, "Patience is a virtue." I'm glad that the past settlers of the valley had morals. I ended yet another long day by cleaning off a whole bunch of dirty animals and collecting 2 more wonders for getting the dig site items, taking me up to a total of 70 wonders collected. I woke up to the sad reality that I had another rooster be born on day 123. I named him Purchase and instantly sold him out of spite. As I was running down to try and catch Hugh, I bumped into Pooey at the town square, where I saw him monologuing about going to Cocoa Island. Enter Van, who needs him to pay up for the goddess sickle that he borrowed. I guess Pooey didn't have permission to give it to me, so to pay Van back, Pooey had to use all the funds he saved for his trip, which, judging by Van's face, had to be a king's ransom. I guess my character didn't truly see this interaction between Pooey and Van, as when we asked Pooey what's up, he said he used all the money he saved, and the camera pans to the cafe, insinuating that Pooey spent all of the money on food or coffee or something. Anyways, I found Hugh in his room as I originally intended to do this morning, and was able to collect another music record, the Winter in Mineral Town record. But since Van is in town, it's time to get down to business, and shear some sheep and make some cheese. The sprites have more recipes now that I harvested some new 3rd-gen crops. Then it's off to Van's to make a mouth-watering 173,000 G. Being a new chapter and all, he has some new items that I just had to grab. This included a nice space-themed interior, some overalls with cute green rain boots, and an interesting vase, which he delivered by hand to my house. Thanks, Van. Now get out so I can put out the new carpet that I just bought off you. Speaking of nice new things, Gordy has created a masterpiece of artwork that he'd be happy to give me, his best friend. Obviously, I have room for it in my bedroom, so this brolic behemoth of a man added some more culture to my newly built room. Now that it's chapter 4, I have a brand new minigame to play. I stalked Van all night until I saw him go into the inn. I followed him inside, where Lou came out and asked me to assist her in feeding this man his midnight snack. Now, a normal man or woman might have some ice cream before bed, but Van is no normal person. Van only accepts the finest cuisine before bedtime. So I serve him over 15 portions of curry, soup, pasta, rice bowls, and everything in between until he's had his fill. And for my effort, Lou gifted me with some leftovers. The last couple days have been so busy, so I'm hoping for an easy day 124 as I water the crops, collect some ume fruits from the orchard, and refill the food troughs in the birdhouse. I ran into Nami and Gordy having a conversation down at Gordy's house, where she tells him to make the art that he loves. So obviously, Gordy goes inside his house and starts punching shit. I guess Hugh's early morning training requires a large lunch, so once again, I'm assisting Lou in the kitchen and starting Hugh down the Van diet to get his macros up. And my earlier wish is granted as we finish up day 124 in the dig site by finding a couple new items. A strange green bell looking thing, and a golden coin. Day 125 is looking to be equally chill. I started out by getting some wool from my furry friends, making those plants nice and moist, and looking for more new dig site items. That afternoon is spent doing some fishing at the swamp with Nami, and then giving Pooey some more money since he had to use all of his savings to pay back Van. As I'm going to wash up for the evening, I run into Luna and Lumina having a domestic in the kitchen, Luna wants to go live in the villa with Romana and Sebastian, so she doesn't have to do any chores. Of course, I jump in and tell her that ain't no way a daughter of mine is gonna be a leech. So she decides to storm out like every teenager. I went to look for her and ended up catching Garrett on his way home from work. Turns out my man has finally got that promotion. Proud of you, Garrett. Proud of you. I start day 126 in the pasture utilizing the new goddess milker that makes it rain milk wherever I stand. Then it's over to the chicken coop to get another egg warmed up and to show a hen the thing that came out of it. Over at the crop fields, I get my plants nice and wet, as some of these third-gen crops are coming in nice and tall. Gary and Lou have some new requests for me, so I get straight into errand mode and give Gary some golden wool, and Lou gets herself a stringfish. Those two completions got me up to 60 requests done and dusted, and 71 wonders found. I spent the afternoon collecting some tree fruits and getting those in the seed maker for the extra profits. Then a visit to the harvest sprites was in order, but they didn't have any new recipes for me just yet. I did some mining at the dig site and some fishing over at the goddess pond before finishing off the day by giving Pooey some more money. I decided it was time to break out some fresh threads on day 127, and this internal monologue while looking in the mirror was quite sad in hindsight. Back in the fields, I got a whole bunch of crops that are ripe and ready for harvest, including some third-gen red bulbs. Of course, I have to make sure that my feathered friends are taken care of before hitting up Vesta's farm to finish off one of her requests for a third-gen field hybrid crop. This request was the one that rewarded me with the goddess hoe, which apparently Vesta's grandfather left her. This new tool got me my 72nd wonder, but the real marvel is just how awesome this thing is. It can till an entire 6x9 area in one swing, making easy work of any field. Since I'm out of recipes, I decided I need to start planting a bunch of third-gen seeds now, instead of waiting until the season they're ready. So I hit up Vinny and did some crop mixing with Happy Lamps, and got all those seeds planted. The rest of the day was spent down at the swamp with Rock, catching some fish. I'm back in the fields the morning of day 128, harvesting some third-gen crops along with some strawberries. In this round, I got my first ever calabash and mandrake to grow in, which instantly get dumped into the seed maker. Van is back in town, so you know what that means. I'm making butter and cheese. While I was waiting for Van to set up his stall, I went around town and found Kate alone with Gustafa in his yurt, talking about writing or something. All I know is that Gustafa has some incense burning. Make of that what you will. Now that Van's got his stall set up, I've got a bunch of stuff to sell him. All my goods and produce net me over 225,000 G and takes me over the 2 million mark of income earned throughout this playthrough. That afternoon, I was finally able to utilize the power of the goddess sickle by cutting down a shit ton of ripe crops before going down to the beach to do some evening fishing. The day is capped off by collecting some more milk from my cows and goat. With all these goddess tool advancements, watering with this golden level can is a little underwhelming. So the goal of day 129 is to fix this by harvesting some crops, including the all-important mellow sweet. I got to restock my chicken coop with food and dump some more crops into the seed maker. But now we can finally see the value of that mellow sweet in the kitchen as I whip up some mellow sweet ice cream. I sprint over to Romana's house to give it to her, and in exchange for my cooking prowess, I'm rewarded with the goddess watering can. I now have the best version of every single tool, having found 73 wonders and completed the tool section of the encyclopedia. With all those new third-gen crops I've collected, the harvest sprites have more recipes for me, including the Earth Bowl. I finished the day by doing more fishing at the beach as I search for a regular-sized langoust. Day 130, the final day of spring for the year, is a rainy one, so I get my raincoat and hood out, and it's into the field I go. You could say I'm definitely seeing enough movement from the disco ball, which gets chopped down along with the football, making it the first time I've harvested these crops. In the barn, I spent some time cleaning up these filthy animals. I guess they were playing in the mud before I brought them inside. I spent the afternoon at the dig site, finding some golden objects and doing some more fishing, before ending the day by finding Gustafa in another very strange place, hanging out with Daryl in his laboratory. I absolutely did not expect to find you here, Gustafa. How'd you know that? I guess he likes to hear the noises and sounds of the labs or something. I start day 131 and the first day of summer by snooping in Luna's diary. She does make some good points about helping me out though, so it was worth it. I checked the calendar to make sure I don't miss any events today, and then went out to the fields to find a bunch of wilted plants that I sadly had to cut down. Lucky for me, a new season means new crops, so I get a whole bunch of new seeds planted to replace the dead ones. The harvest sprites have blessed me with the knowledge of how to make a lunchbox, and it would appear that Cole and Daryl have some errands for me to run. I know I said I didn't really need the gems oils anymore, but you can never have enough happy lamps, so I get those collected and complete my active requests by giving Cole a blue Mado and providing Daryl with some ink black pasta. As I was making my way to the dig site, I ran into Kate and Flora having a conversation about archaeology. Kate asked Flora if she regrets coming to Forgotten Valley and becoming an archaeologist, all while missing out on love, fashion, and anything else outside of the valley. To which Flora responds that she could do all that stuff here, but her real love is in the work that she does. Their conversation ends as Kate thanks her for the insight. Now, all that eavesdropping was fun, but what's more fun is cutting down a ton of grass in one swipe with a goddess sickle, which is how I end the day. Now that the rain has passed, I start day 132 by throwing on the painter's overalls and getting into the field to show you the power of the goddess watering can, which can water an absolutely insane 9x9 square of crops. Speaking of insanity, it's still crazy how awesome these goddess clippers are, as I get 2 golden wools for the price of 1. I grab my daily recipe from the harvest sprites, then run into another cutscene at the dig site, as I find Luna eavesdropping on Daryl and Carter this time, having a heated discussion about calculating heat energy of the waterfall to improve the future of the valley through scientific advancements or something along those lines. Luna decides to jump into the conversation, and Daryl insists that she listen to his lecture. It would appear that Luna's just running around town today, as I find her down at the beach talking to Hugh about how no one understands her and how she hates being at home. Apparently Hugh feels the same way, but he has to go home eventually because, he gets hungry and tired, and his bed's there. He's such a simple creature. That evening is spent back down at the beach at the fireworks festival, but Luna's still quite in a mood. So, as the fireworks pop off in the sky, she decides to go home early since, being a teenager is hard or whatever. But all the adults agree that she'll get over this phase eventually. We're back in the fields, utilizing the awesome power of the goddess watering can on day 133, as these 3rd gen crops are starting to really come in. Van is once again in the valley, so I'm gathering all the milk and getting it transformed into cheese and butter. And as I'm running around town, I bumped into the harvest sprites outside of Romana's mansion. They're still on their search for a wonderful, but can't seem to find that quality in Romana, so they run away. It's been a while since I cleaned Nina's grave, so I go ahead and do that, but I still can't get a perfect score. I've never opened up my own stall so far, so while I'm waiting for Van to get his set up, I go ahead and put some stuff up for sale and sell a fish to Tay and an ore I found to San. Van finally gets his butt in gear when he saw some competition on his turf, and I managed to sell him almost 240,000 G worth of goods. Only 210,000 away from that teddy bear. In the afternoon, a couple of my 3rd gen hybrids became nice and ripe, so now I've got my first ever blue bulb and yellamp crops harvested. I gave Pooey his daily $1 down at the beach, then spent the evening collecting some durian fruits in the orchard. Day 134 isn't super eventful, but I got my crops watered and was able to harvest another ripe 3rd gen crop for the first time, an ocarina. The harvest sprites hooked me up with another recipe today, the rich salad, and the rain started to come down, so I got changed into my proper attire for it to totally dry up as soon as I got back outside. So I let the animals back out and got my cow outfit on, just in time for some more hybrid crops to be ready for harvest. This time I got some turmeric, a cymbal, some ginger, a whistle, garlic, a maraca, and a peanut. I end this day by learning from my daughter that Cole has athlete's foot. I don't know how Luna would come across that knowledge, but it leaves me a little bit worried. I'm greeted by some nice and sunny weather on day 135, so my crops are definitely thirsty, and I'm happy to provide them with the liquid nourishment they require. Speaking of nourishment, I make sure to check on my chickens and collect any eggs they have laid. Then it's off to collect more happy lamps that have grown in overnight. A sunny day suddenly turned rainy out of nowhere. So I get all done up in my raincoat and head over to the dig site to find some golden artifacts. My seed maker has boar seeds, so I collect those bad boys and run over to the crop field to find that a couple more 3rd gen hybrids have grown in. With those harvested, my crop section of the encyclopedia is really starting to fill in. But it appears that chock seed that I made died and never grew in. So it's over to Vinny to create another chock seed and utilize these happy lamps so that it doesn't die this time. I get that planted and finish off the day. To start day 136, I'm in the pasture getting some milk where I'm rudely interrupted by the harvest sprites. The chick that hatched was a girl, but I'm trying to get ducklings, so I named her Poop, which the game just didn't like. But Dookie is perfectly fine, so Dookie is instantly sold. Then it's back to working and harvesting another 3rd gen crop, which is a soramame, which I guess is some type of bean or something like that. It's been a while since I've got some orchard fruit, so I collect some of those and then hit up the kitchen to make a tropical punch. I also really like the animation of the seed maker being finished, so I thought I'd show you guys that. Looks like San and Takakura have some errands for me to run, so I complete Takakura's request by giving him some calamari, and then provide San the golden egg that she wanted. What she plans to use it for is beyond me though. After doing some fishing and contemplating down by the beach, I decided to end the day by making a fish dish for dinner, some stargazy pie. The rain has fallen down the morning of day 137, so I slip on my raincoat and check out my recipe list in the encyclopedia. There's still a very long way to go, and the only way to get started on those recipes is to gather ingredients. So I add to my stockpiles by harvesting a bunch of tomatoes before checking up on my birds. The harvest sprites teach me how to make a nutty stir fry, then it's down into the mines to do some digging. Another crop that died was my hand egg, so I hit up Vinny to make another seed and get that planted, before giving all these dirty animals a power washing. As I'm relaxing that evening doing some fishing, of course, it starts raining again, so I end the day by bringing the animals into the barn for the evening. It's still raining when I wake up the morning of day 138, so I'm gonna have to milk my animals inside today. But you won't see me complaining too much, since I don't have to water the crops, and I can just focus on harvesting. And of course, I make sure to put a portion of my harvest into the seed maker for future seasons. As if I could forget, today is a van day, so I'm in the processing room once again increasing my profit margins. Since Garrett doesn't have work today, I found him in the inn waiting for lunch to be prepared, so I decided to assist Lou once again in the kitchen with feeding this hungry salaryman. Despite his slender frame, Garrett can really put it away. 18 plates of fish and fried food put it away. My reward for cooking is more leftovers. Thanks, Lou. Honestly though, my real reward is completing the minigame section of the encyclopedia. Now that Van is finally in place, I can sell him all my stuff. After negotiating him up to a little over 200,000 G, I was left with just under 1 million G. So I decided to run back to the farm and take out some tree fruits that I've been stockpiling for exactly this reason, and sell them to him for just under 50,000 G. With this amount, I could finally buy myself a teddy bear. But of course, I gotta get myself the best deal I can, and Van offers me a 10% discount. I get my new 900,000 G teddy bear hand-delivered to Luna's room, and there is totally nothing strange about this stuffed animal. Speaking of strange things, my crop that is shaped like a basketball is ready for harvest, netting me my first The Rock vegetable, or fruit, I don't know what it is. I got all the 1st and 2nd gen crops harvested while I was at it, and spent the afternoon hanging out with Luna at the river as she contemplates life. I decided that to end the day, I needed to start working on the animal section of the encyclopedia, so sadly I had to sell Pint to make room for new animals. So I decided to talk to her one last time and give her some love as she heads to the city. I picked up right where I left off on day 139, putting on my raincoat and ordering some breeding for Pepis, since I need to have a male and female kid for the encyclopedia. Also, I had to sell Pico to make even more room in the barn. So of course, I gave him a proper send-off by talking to him and giving him some love. And wouldn't you believe it, the rain stops early in the morning. So I bring all my animals back out to the pasture and put on some more appropriate clothes to harvest more 3rd gen crops, signaling the first appearance of another 3rd gen crop, the artichoke. Of course, I dump a bunch of recently harvested crops into the seed maker, then head back out to collect the last round of happy lamps for the summer. That afternoon, my eggplants were ready for chopping, so I got those cut down, then finished the day by doing some beach fishing. The final day of summer, day 140, begins by attempting to buy myself a male star cow, but I couldn't. It's weird because it's not like I don't have enough room. I only have 14 animals in the barn. But surprise, surprise, these sheep breed like rabbits, and Porridge is already pregnant, not even a day after a spot opened up in the barn. So unfortunately, another sacrifice must be made, and Puck had the lowest heart level, so I get her sold and obviously spend a little extra time with her before she has to go to the city. I got the rest of my crops watered, and I harvested the ripe termelons, then emptied out the seed maker that is absolutely bursting at the seams with rare seeds, and got it refilled with eggplants and termelons I just harvested. I spent some time in the afternoon digging for artifacts until Takakura invited me into the barn to show me the specimen that would be mating with 𝐕𝐵𝗵s. Turns out he wasn't that much of a specimen, if you know what I mean. But I guess he got the job done at the end of the day. Speaking of getting the job done, I finally caught that regular land goose I was searching for. So I now have at least one of every fish in the game in each size: lil, regular, large, and huge. I know you don't have to do this, but, I had to do it. The first day of autumn means a new outfit is needed for the morning of day 141. I get out in the pasture and I milk all the cows with my goddess milker, then decide that enough is enough with these unplanned pregnancies, and start selling my male sheep, starting with Pinot. I then went ahead and bought a male brown cow to continue working on the animal encyclopedia. A new season means there's a whole bunch of new crops that I need to get planted and watered, before hitting up the request board where Carter and Flora have some errands for me to run. I make the blue jam that Flora requested in the kitchen, but before I can give that item, I run into a very quirky trio: Vesta, Pui, and Luna. It would appear that Pui has been ripping up Vesta's crop field for food, so Vesta's gonna teach him how to actually harvest crops. Eventually, she spots Luna and asks her to help prep the fields in exchange for some delicious vegetables. After that cute cutscene, I can finish off the request I accepted earlier by giving Flora the blue jam and Carter an apple. On my way home, I gave Pui some money so he doesn't have to steal vegetables from Vesta, and I finished the day off by giving Lumina a cake that I got as a reward for those requests I completed. The cull of animals continues on day 142 as I sold Paul and purchased a male brown cow. Of course, I had to give Paul, one of our first ever animals, a proper send-off before checking up on Luna's diary. It would appear that she has some reservations about the 900,000 G gift that I gave her. She's definitely not out of line for this entry, and the possibility of a gremlin, as she describes it, inside that bear definitely can't be ruled out. That afternoon, Takakura brought me my male marble calf back from town, and I named him Parsley. I finished this day off by giving my plants their second watering of the day. Day 143 is yet another van day, but after selling all of those sheep, my profits definitely won't be as impressive. Continuing down the animal train, I get a male normal calf purchased, and then it's over to the pasture to collect my morning milk. I have to at least try and make up for those lost profits by making cheese and butter in the processing room, but before our van even opens his stall, I gave Nina's grave a nice cleaning at another shot for that perfection, but I still can't get it. Van took a look at all my produce and found it in his heart to give me just over 185,000 G after some haggling. But he had a new outfit in stock. And if you know me, you know I just have to buy all the outfits, even if it's 100,000 G. That afternoon, Takakura returned with my newly purchased calf, whom I affectionately name Piston. And if you thought that I wasn't instantly gonna put on an outfit that I paid an arm and a leg for, you're a fool. Out in the orchard, I collect some chestnuts, and now that I have a nice stockpile of ingredients, I decided it's time to make a dent in the dessert recipes, starting with some papal jam. I also made some banorange jam, a carrot cake, some turnberry cake, veggie juice, a smoothie, a sour smoothie, and finished this cooking session off with some vacation punch. I'm back in the pasture collecting some milk the morning of day 144, and it's off to the amazing field to water all the 2nd gen and 3rd gen crops. It's been a minute since I checked in on all our winged animals, so I hit up the chicken coop before spending some time with Carter and Flora in the dig site. I watch as the clock hits 12 p.m. and a whole bunch of my plants become ripe, including this very neat 3rd gen crop, my first ever 𝐋𝐢𝐳𝐤𝐬. I made a bunch of dessert recipes yesterday, so now it's time to cook up some salads and soups, starting with the fruit salad. I made a turnberry salad, a potamello salad, some tomatoma soup, some earth soup, darn good soup, borscht, and I finished off this round of cooking with some regular old stew. To cap off the day, I welcomed the arrival of our newest calf, who I named Perry. Today, day 145, is the harvest banquet. Investa stopped by this morning to make sure I didn't forget. We got some extra dirty animals this morning, so I get all those boys and girls nice and clean. I then get the plants watered, before realizing that my male calves have grown up. So since the animal encyclopedia was really their only utility, I got Parsley sold away. But his short time here doesn't mean he wasn't loved just as much as any of my other animals. Since today's big event is the Harvest Festival, I ran down to the inn to show what I plan on putting in the pot today. A nice, delicious blue turnip that is sure to add some color to this otherwise beige meal. It seemed like everyone enjoyed and had a great time. And I finished off day 145 by paying restitutions to my boy Pooey for that goddess sickle, before shaking off one last crop of Granny Smith apples. To start day 146, I order my final male cow, a star calf that should be here tomorrow. Fall is a pretty dry season, so I have to do a lot of watering by hand. And then it's off to the encyclopedia, where you can see just how close I am to finishing off this animal section. Piston has fulfilled his role in that aim, so it's time to sell him off to the city, as I wish him well on his journey back up the mountain. I decided to finish off this day by taking a crack at some appetizers and entrees, starting with some veggie tempura, then making some starchy veggies, a herbal hot pot, some oden, a veggie biryani, and finishing off with some cheese fondue. All that cooking means I've made a total of 70 dishes, and I find my 76th wonder. The cooking encyclopedia is really starting to look much more populated. I'm back in the ledger to start day 147, first to sell off Perry, who has now been fully grown, and to replace him with a normal female calf, since Poppy, the first animal we ever had, came to us fully grown. Of course, I tell Perry the city's a nice place to be and give him some love, before doing my daily ranching chores by trimming some wool and collecting some milk using my goddess tools. Over in the crop fields, I get some 3rd gen crops watered and harvested, along with a whole bunch of 1st and 2nd gen crops, which will be needed for those other 50 recipes I need to make. It's been some time since I went to the dig site to look for rare artifacts, so I spent some time down there with Carter and Flora, and then realized I didn't pick up the request from Sully or Gavin yesterday. A lot of recipes need butter, so I stopped by the processing room to make some, before Takakura arrived back on the farm with our newest male calf, a star cow who I named Sunny. Then it's back in the kitchen to get started on those butter-heavy recipes, beginning with a shroom stir-fry. After that, I made a fluffy pie, veggie stir-fry, egg tart, some pound cake, a peach tart, some sweet potato tarts, a crispy tart, lumpy tart, omelet, meunière set, mushroom curry, and I finished it up with a gratin. I dropped by the cafe to give Gavin the buckmouth bass he requested. I gave Pooey 100G down by the bridge, and then finished off the day by giving Sully some milk. That request was my 70th completion, and now I have found 78 wonders. There's only 10 more wonders to go, but all of those are pretty much just a matter of time. We finally got some rain on day 148, so I throw on my raincoat and get into the field to harvest some 3rd gen crops. In case you're worried, I have been stocking and emptying the seed maker often. I just don't show that footage since it's kind of boring. The rain has forced all my large animals in the barn for today, so I get all that milk going and receive my first ever S-Star goat milk from Pepis, which means I can get S-Star cheese and butter for the byproduct section of the encyclopedia. The rain subsided for the day, so I put on a more comfortable outfit and went down to see the big man, and sell him some goods. This time around, I was able to get just under 160,000 G. It's not like money matters all too much at this point, but I still like to get as much as I can. As soon as I got back home, Takakura arrived with the normal calf I ordered, who I named Puny. But since I only need her to fill out the encyclopedia, I sent her right back where she came from. I put a lid on day 148 by watering and harvesting some crops as the first snowfall of the year came down. Day 149 might be my lucky day, as I'm woken up to a female duckling having just hatched. This little one gets named Posh, and then it's back to the pasture to get some milk. I get some plants watered and scythe down the ripe ginseng, then run over to the Harvest Sprite hut to grab the seafood pho recipe. A whole bunch of carrots and potatoes are ripe and ready for plucking, and so I finish this short day off by giving 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 some love. The final day of autumn in year 4, day 150, begins by getting some wool out in the pasture. After checking the encyclopedia, I learned that I now have every cow breed, size, and sex checked off, so I go ahead and get Sunny the star cow sold, but make sure to give the big guy some love and affection before his journey back to the city. Over at the crop fields, a new 3rd gen crop is ready for harvest. My first ever hand egg. With that crop finally in my hands, I have completed the crops section of the encyclopedia. I've officially grown and harvested at least one of every fruit, vegetable, and weird crop, whatever you want to call them, in the entire game. I have to temper my excitement because there's still plenty of work to do, especially in the coop, since all these birds need some food. But now that I got the crop section finished, it's time to really commit to the recipe list, starting with a rich salad. I also got myself the last recipe you can get from the Harvest Sprites today, the boiled fish recipe, before heading over to Vinny to do some happy lamp infusing, since I need a whole bunch of 3rd gen crops for the other 40 or so recipes I still need to make. I get those happy lamp seeds planted, and then get back into the kitchen to make some veggie pasta. I finish up this final day of autumn by preparing my fields for the planting of winter crops tomorrow. And that's exactly where I pick up on day 251, planting all those winter crop seeds in the field. It would appear that the Harvest Sprites are still having a hard time finding a wonderful, whatever that even is, and then I make sure to collect the errand requests from Romana and Sebastian before picking up my first upseed of the season. That evening, I get my second helping of milk from the cows, and then get in the kitchen to whip up the Odin that Sebastian asked for. I finish up the first day of winter by completing Romana's request, then deliver Sebastian that nice, piping hot Odin like I work for DoorDash. To start day 152, I'm cutting some wool off the sheep, and 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 is finally ready to be isolated. Those of you with a great memory will know that means Porridge is also ready to be isolated, as 2 new members are about to join the farm. As I was feeding the birds, I found Lumina enjoying herself, talking to the chickens, and I spent that afternoon doing some animal washing. To finish off another short day, I'm back in the kitchen, whipping up a rare salad. The snowfall is pretty heavy on day 153, so I throw on my Christmas jumpa for all you Brits out there, and get to doing my farm chores, watering crops and milking some animals that have udders. You'd think 30 things of chicken food will last you a long time, but you're wrong. So I decided to order 100 more units of chicken feed before turning all that milk I've hoarded into cheese and butter. 147,000 G isn't too bad considering how many sheep I've had to sacrifice. And a nice relaxing day comes to a close as I shake a tree for some fruit, side down a huge swath of grass, and make sure my animals are well fed overnight. Another snowy day means not only do I have to water the plants manually, but I also have to work with my animals inside the barn. I guess they're a little bit closer together, so it makes milking them faster. Anyways, the chickens and ducks never leave the coop anyways, so it's easy to pick up their eggs and give them cuddles. But as soon as I mentioned it, the snow stops, so I put on a new outfit and get digging in the mines. Yet another short day is capped off by giving my plants another helping of water. My egg hatching has been super lucky recently as I've got another female duck to name on day 155. Pollo seems like a perfect fit for this little one. If animals could get sick in this game, I would keep my sheep nice and woolly, but they can't, so I won't. After a long and exhausting search, it would appear that the Harvest Sprites finally found themselves a wonderful, the sweet dulcet tones of Gustafa. After finding one, I guess they have more to look for, so good luck to you, Jack, Ace, and Heart. I almost forgot that tonight was the Starry Night Festival, so I'm glad Gavin reminded me. Everyone has a good time, as is typical, watching the shooting stars light up the night sky, and I, once again, wish for Luna to take an interest in farming. Lumina's wish for continued health of everyone she cares about is much more selfless than mine, I suppose. Hearing her talk about losing both of her parents at a young age and how she's just glad to be there for Luna, even though she's being a little bit of a turd, really does pull on the old heartstrings. For those curious, I'm not too sure that the farmer's wish does all that much, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. The harvest sprites are at my door the morning of day 156, but this time it isn't for a new animal. Since they found they're wonderful, they decided to give me a gift for helping them find wonders. The gift they gave me is a matching sprite outfit, so you know I had to throw that on, like, ASAP. I'm all done up in green, and I make sure all my isolated animals are well fed, before making a massive blunder by selling my only male duck, Pete. I wanted to have 8 hens and 8 female ducks, so I thought that since I had a whole bunch of fertilized eggs in my inventory, I no longer needed a male duck. But to get ducklings, you need to have at least 1 male duck in your coop, so selling Pete really screwed me in that goal. But it's not a big deal in the grand scope of things, it's just something that I thought I'd mention if you're playing this game. The 6th day of the season means more requests to gather, so I got myself a char out of my fridge, made some butter in the processing room, and went to complete Charlie's request. It's been a while since I played territory capture, but it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you got the skills, you just don't lose them. I even beat up on Cole for good measure. I gave my crops the customary second watering of the day, then watched Garrett come across the mountain pass so that I could finish his request and put a cap on day 156. The snow remains in the air on day 157, so the animals get tended to inside the barn once again. Having all these ducks and chickens to love really takes a lot of time. But we have a new farm member this morning, a male sheep who I decided to name Pasta. I spent some time doing harvest sprite things since we all have matching threads now, and then all 4 of us ran back to the farm to see Peppis has given birth to a female kid who gets named Prancer. With that addition, I only need a male kid and adult goat to finish out the animal section of the encyclopedia. Also, it might have taken a while, but Ponyo the cat is now added to my best friends list, so I spent some time talking to Vinny to get every single character and pet on this little list here have maxed out friendship. And the last thing I do on day 157 is harvest a ripe crop of turnips. There's been nothing but snow these last couple mornings, but I finally got one of the last animal byproducts I need, mother's milk, on day 158. To get another byproduct I've been looking for, I throw one of those mother's milks into the cheese maker to make mother's cheese. Of course, I make sure all my 3rd gen crops are nice and wet, and then is back to the processing room to make some produce for Van's visit today. I gave Luna a flower and sold off all my processed goods to Van for just over 125,000 G. That afternoon, I was able to harvest some blue bulbs and red lamps in the crop field, and then I took them over to the kitchen to use them in creating a sparkling salad and a red light salad to finish off the day. The inclement weather continues on day 159, as a typhoon is about to make landfall in Forgotten Valley. So I get my rain gear on and get to the barn to collect some more milk, including another mother's milk, which gets turned into mother's butter in the processing room. A nice rainy, typhoony day is best spent with Carter and Flora in the dig site. Then it's back to the crop fields to harvest some more purple lamps and mandrakes. It appears that the typhoon was short-lived, so I hit up my closet and throw on some more comfortable attire and finish off the day by collecting some more milk from the cows. I guess all my cows were enjoying the mud puddles this morning, as I get them all cleaned off to start day 160, the final day of year 4. Some calabash and AO crops are ready for harvest, so I get those chopped down and then head over to the chicken coop to check on all my feathered friends. That afternoon, some cookies, donuts, whistles, and castanets are ready for chopping, so I get those side down and over to the kitchen to make a dancing dessert, our final act of this day. As we move into Chapter 5, we do yet another time skip, and now Luna has grown up to be a young adult. It would appear that her interest in music has transformed into a love for education and academics. but Lumina still insists on her helping around the family farm. Nothing much has changed in these last couple of years though, as Pui is still lurking around the farm. Now that we're officially into a new year on day 161, there's a whole slate of new cutscenes and items to discover. A fun discovery is that my daughter finally appreciates the work I've put in on the farm. I probably shouldn't be checking her diary at this age, but you know, I'm a snooper, what can I say? By the way, for those of you who want to know, here are the interest levels of Luna on this first day of Chapter 5. Also, we got our 79th wonder for still being alive, which is great. I love being alive. One thing that definitely isn't still alive are some crops that decided to die on me as the seasons changed. So I've got to cut those down and get the field prepped to plant the massive amount of spring crops. It looks like some residents of the valley have already gotten busy with requests on the first day of the year, but what's most important to me is getting into the dig site and finding new stuff, like this mete ore. I also made sure to spend all the time I could to find the final stone tablet, which Carter instantly translates for us. Now that we've got every single tablet, Carter thinks we can recreate the entire sequence. Turns out we'll need Lou's help for this part, as Carter prepares the ingredients. Flora seems kinda disappointed with the outcome of this whole tablet search, but at least we get to enjoy the relaxing motion of the river. It would appear that the message these previous inhabitants of Forgotten Valley were trying to tell us was a recipe for curry of all things. Well, at least we got a nice meal out of all this digging. I also got my 80th wonder for collecting every single stone tablet. That evening, I made sure all my new seedlings were watered before scything down the ripe teapots, teacups, candies, and garlic before dumping a bunch of them into the seed maker. To finish off the day, I gave Sebastian a mellow blue as requested. Farm chores start on day 162 by collecting milk from all the cows. Then it's over to the crop fields to water some plants and harvest a whole bunch of ripe 3rd gen crops. With all these extra ingredients, I'm in the kitchen early cooking up a party salad and some pickles. These last 2 recipes marked the 90th that I've created, awarding me with my 81st wonder. The birds in the coop get some cuddles, and then I stumble upon our annual tradition of finding Molly at the bridge looking distraught. Would you believe me when I say that she got dumped again? Turns out the person she was dating this time around and didn't see marriage in the future, so they split up. But this time, I guess Gavin's finally come to his senses and relieves me of my therapist duties. I'm just a little curious boy, so I went over to the cafe to see if anything happened after that, only for Molly to leave the cafe and run over to the inn to get some ingredients. As she's outside, Gavin says he just can't imagine her getting married nowadays. Sounds like kind of talk to me. But he really does enjoy her company, so I guess I'll just let it slide. As much as I want them to be together, I guess they're just roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Back on the farm, the seed maker is ready to be cleaned out and replaced, so I get that done and take some seeds along with Happy Lamps over to Vinny so I can plant them now instead of later. And I end this day by getting those newly planted crops watered. I'm feeling spritey today, so I throw on my honorary Harvest Sprite uniform to start day 163, then it's out to the fields to get some milk. Everyone's favorite salesman is coming to town today, so I make sure to get all my golden wool from my sheep and turn my milk into butter and cheese, before showing all of my goods to Van for a respectable 158,000 G. I also went ahead and bought myself 3 hyper drinks and ran over to Daryl's lab to complete his request. In exchange, I got myself a toolbox, and I placed it right next to Luna's old sand bucket and shovel. It's kind of bittersweet seeing these 2 items next to each other, but that evening, as I'm inspecting Daryl's gift for any hidden cameras or microphones, Luna sees the toolbox and asks to borrow them to create something that is going to be a little surprise for later. And that's how I end day 163. Rain is back on the menu on day 164, so I get my rain gear on and collect some fruit at the orchard. Over at the chicken coop, I've got some ducks to pet and eggs to collect. Then it's over to the dig site where I finally unearthed the final golden object in the game, the golden bear. Not only is it worth a good chunk of change, but I also get my 82nd wonder for finding all 5 golden artifacts. The rain didn't let up all day, so I'm forced to milk my cows and goats inside the barn to finish off this evening. Speaking of being inside, day 165 starts in the exact same place, making sure my large animals are staying fed with all this inclement weather. These birds don't even know what the outside is though, let alone what rain feels like. The next thing on the docket is to order another breeding session for 𝐕𝐵𝗵𝗏, since I need a male goat kid to finish off that section of the encyclopedia. This evening, I finally learned why Luna needed that toolbox. She used her ingenuity and intelligence to make some shelves for the kitchen, since we're always running out of room for pots and pans and whatnot. It would appear that we have our very own handyman in the family, which is nice. The rain finally subsided, so I put on a light sweater and went back out to tend the crops and milk the animals to finish off the day. I'm reminded of just how old I look on day 166. So obviously, I go out into the spring sunshine without any sunblock or moisturizer, no skincare routine at all, and I'm just watering the crops. I make sure to keep these sheepies nice and clean, and then shake down some ume fruits from the tree before checking out the request board for the second time in the season. Tay requested some cheese, so I get that made, and Cole needs some ahi, so I take one out of the fridge before being interrupted by Takakura with 𝐕𝐵𝗵𝗏's appointment. Everything goes off without a hitch this time around, so I spend the evening watering my crops and harvesting the ripe ones that have grown quickly before heading to the inn to complete Tay's request. Of course, I find Cole outside his house and give him that ahi that he wanted, completing day 166. It seems like more days have been rainy than haven't this season. Day 167 begins in the field harvesting some ripe 3rd gen crops. It's been a while since I've seen a squash, so here it is. I've also got some red bulbs to cut down. In the barn, I learned that Porridge is pregnant once again, so that's fun. At least she has some golden wool for me. Since the rain has finally stopped, I throw on my painter's overalls and go to the dig site, only for it to start raining again. So it's back to the closet. These animals get so dirty so quickly, especially when it rains and they're kept inside. I don't know if that's like an actual thing. But anyways, I end this day by getting them all clean. On day 168, I got my first bit of wool from Pasta before collecting my morning milk from all the cows. A butt ton of 3rd gen crops are ready for harvest this morning, so I get those cut down along with some 2nd gen crops on the opposite side of the field. Most of these will be used in recipes, so extras are thrown into the seed maker. Speaking of recipes, today I decided to make some odd soup, mixed punch, healthy juice, and some deluxe juice. I also ordered some fodder plus for the new baby sheep that is inbound via Porridge. Van is in town once again, so it's over to the processing room to make some cheese and butter. This time around, I was able to get a healthy 185,000 G. It's just a shame that he doesn't really sell anything interesting after Chapter 4. It seems like the majority of my crops decided to turn ripe today. So I get a whole host of veggies harvested, and then it's back to the kitchen to make some shiny stir fry. I also make an incredible sweet potato, an earth bowl, some shiny tempura, and finally some rare stew. That makes a total of 100 different recipes made, awarding me my 83rd wonder. This recipe list in the encyclopedia is really starting to come together. Also, I only have 5 more wonders to get, so that's pretty exciting. I start day 169 by throwing on my raincoat and getting into the seed maker, collecting all the prepared seeds and replacing them with crops. Out in the fields, a handful of crops are ripe, so I get those harvested, then make my way into the barn to feed all the large animals. In the chicken coop, all my birds get some love and cuddles, and then the rain turned to sun, so I threw on my Harvest Sprite outfit and got even more crops harvested. With all these new ingredients, I got in the kitchen and made some baked picaro, spicy curry, nutty stir fry, and finished this cooking session with some dancing tempura. That baked picaro was made for a request from Lou, which I can finally complete before giving my crops their second watering of the day. I finished day 169 by finding Luna at the cafe at 10 p.m. I mean, this would make perfect sense if this cafe was still a bar. I mean, you're a young adult, Luna, you can drink alcohol, but what do you need caffeine for this late? Are you studying with Daryl? Like, what's going on? The final day of spring, day 170, begins by watering some plants and harvesting the ripe 3rd gen crops that have grown in overnight. I get some golden wool collected, then drop off some crops into the seed maker. Of course, I'm back in the kitchen, baby, but it's only one recipe today. I'm making a lunchbox. Then it's over to Vinny to make some 𝐷𝐷𝐷𝐷 seeds for more ingredients. A whole bunch of teacups, teapots, castanets, ginseng, and garlic are ready for harvest. And with all those new 3rd gen crops harvested, I'm back in the kitchen again to make some darn good pickles and bean paste before ending this spring season with one last milk collection. I totally didn't forget to hit record the morning of day 171. So I start this day by picking up some requests from Carter and Hugh. Summer means that the all-important happy lamps are finally in season. So I get those collected, then complete my errands by giving Hugh a blue turnip and providing Carter with the rare stew that I made a couple days ago. Those completed requests mark 80 total completions and 84 wonders found. I spend the evening making sure that every single plant in the field is nice and watered before claiming my second tithe of milk for the day. As I was getting ready for bed, Lumina ushered me into the kitchen where Pancho, Ponyo, Luna, and Takakura are all waiting with a delicious feast. It would appear that this is an anniversary celebration hosted by Luna. We have some delicious food, and Lumina says some very sweet things about how awesome our time together has been. The perfect end to a lovely day. It seemed a little silly to have the Sprite outfit on during that cutscene, so I changed it out for some overalls before getting my seed maker emptied out to start day 172. Some chochins and disco balls are ready for harvest, and I've got animals to milk and shear in the pasture. A whole bunch of fresh crops get dumped into the seed maker, and then I check up on my birds and make sure that they're fed and taken care of. The second day of summer is the fireworks festival. So the whole fam is down at the beach to watch Charlie and Cole do their thing. Luna has definitely gotten over her teenage angst phase if you compare her attitude tonight to last chapter's fireworks festival. Van is stopping by in town today on day 173, but the most important part of today is that I finally got the last animal byproduct, some blue quality wool from Pasta. With that item, I've officially completed the byproduct section of the encyclopedia. To avoid any future unwanted pregnancies, I have to sell Pasta away, but not before thanking him for his service to the farm, as I wish him good luck in the city. Now that money doesn't matter, I no longer make cheese or milk for Van. I just sell him what I got for just under 128,000 G. I totally forgot to water my crops in the excitement of getting that blue wool this morning, so I get that fixed and spend some time collecting some tree fruits. Then it's over to Vinny to make some 3rd gen hybrids that will grow in any season, and finish off this day by using the goddess hoe to prep and plant those seeds in the field. The rain from yesterday is still in the mix on day 174, so with my raincoat equipped, I make my way to the barn to get some milk from our uttered friends. The only thing of note that I did today was collect some ready seeds from the seed maker and refilled the feed squares in the chicken coop. As soon as it cleared up on day 175, it started raining again, so it's back to the barn for all you large animals. But I can't leave them all super dirty, so I get the brush out and handle that before harvesting a bunch of turnips and getting them put into the seed maker. As I'm going to wash up for the evening, I run into Lumina and Luna having a chat where Luna reveals the worst kept secret in the valley by admitting that she likes Hugh. Lumina then recounts her own tale about how she found out about love, and then she talks about how we got together before, of course, I step in and tell my side of the story. Luna wakes me up the day of 176 to let me know that I can leave the birds to her. So I'm in the pasture to start the day by milking the cows, and then the request board has been populated with some errands. Looks like Flora and Charlie have some stuff for me to do. These were easy enough, as Flora only needed some S-star milk, and Charlie requested a single stringfish, of which I have plenty. Another short day is capped off by harvesting some ripe 2nd gen potato crop thingies. I had some chicks born on day 177. The first one's a boy, so obviously he gets named Pooper. And then the second one was also a boy, so he gets named Pooper 2. Of course, Pooper 2 gets sold instantly, and then it's down to work by collecting some golden wool from porridge and harvesting some crops. And that's all about happens today, as I finish this day by dumping off some crops in the seed maker. Van is in town on day 178, so I get the cows milked, but Pepis is finally ready to be isolated. So I get her sequestered inside the barn before harvesting a bunch of crops in the field. And I mean a bunch of crops. All the vegetables and fruits I don't plan on using for recipes are put in the seed maker, and then I get pooper number 1 sold away. With all those new ingredients, we're back in the kitchen, cooking up some remedy soup, boiled fish, veggie surprise, and pokaro stir fry. At this point in time, I think there's about a dozen recipes I still need to make, so it's back into the field to harvest even more ingredients. Then over to Vans to make some money. This time around, I was able to get about 125,000 G. Then it's back into the kitchen to make a veggie loaf and a mountain bowl, before finishing the day by utilizing the power of the goddess scythe to cut some grass in the rain. I start day 179 by emptying out the seed maker and then harvesting some ripe crops in the field. It looks like Porridge is finally ready for isolation again, so I get her all set up in the barn before saying hello to all the chickens and ducks in the coop. Back at my house in the kitchen, I make myself a bean bowl, a minced veggie bowl, and some curry, before finishing the day by harvesting some eggplants and watering the remaining crops. I realized on day 180, 2 recipes in the encyclopedia aren't actually recipes you can learn, they're just failed dishes that you make by combining 2 ingredients that should never go together, and then repeating that process with 3 ingredients to create the failed dish and the unknown dish. After creating those absolute travesties of cuisine, it's out to the pasture to get some milk. Then over to the crop field to water and harvest my second to last round of crops for the summer. These crops get put into the seed maker, and then I run down to Gustafa's yurt to collect the final round of happy lamps. I harvested one last cookie in the fields, then it's back to make some afternoon sweets in the kitchen. I spent the remainder of this final day of summer doing some seed enhancement with Vinny, getting all the seeds ready to plant for tomorrow, and prepping the field for the autumn crop. I pick up right where I left off on day 181, in the crop fields getting seeds planted with the rain doing the watering for me. I harvest a whole bunch of garlic that grew in overnight, then hit up the request board where Gavin and Romana need some errands done. With all this extra garlic, I can finally make some seafood pho, Pirate's Delight, and mushroom pasta. I completed Gavin's request for a tree crop with a delicious grape, and gave Romana the odd soup that I made on day 168. My fertilizer spreader was running a little low, so I made some fertilizer with leftover flowers, and got 100 units put into the machine. Speaking of machines, I finish off day 181 by giving the seed maker a little snack of 2nd gen crops. Day 182 begins in the barn getting some wool from my sheep, and then it's over to the chicken coop to check on these bird boys. A new season means an outfit change is in order, and I need to make sure Prince has that nice clean coat. And an incredibly short day 182 ends by clearing out the seed maker again. Another chick is hatched to start day 183, but another boy means another pooper. Speaking of poopers, where's the manure in this game? Like, I should be able to get manure as fertilizer, but maybe that's why the grass keeps growing in the pasture, I don't know. Anyways, I water the crops and greet my newest farm member. I totally didn't save scum at all to get this male kid who I named Plankton. Now I just need him to grow up to complete this animal section of the encyclopedia. I almost forgot that Van was here today, so I sold him some stuff to the tune of 116,000 G and finished the day off by collecting some tree fruits in the orchard. Another day means another male chicken. Welcome Pooper 4 to the coop. His stay is only for one night though. The morning of day 184 is spent doing my typical farm chores, milking cows, watering crops, and refilling the food boxes in the chicken coop. Porridge gave birth though, so that's nice. Lucky for me, this sheep is a girl, so no unplanned pregnancies will happen again, now that Primrose is joining the flock to finish off day 184. Festa's at my front door on day 185 to remind me to come to the Harvest Festival this afternoon. So I get straight to work getting some goat milk from Prancer and collecting some golden wool off of one of my sheep. Pooper 3 gets sold away, then it's off to the layover inn, where I present Lou with the eggplant I plan on providing for this meal this afternoon. I get that tossed in the pot, and Van loves the flavor of this eggplant so much that he eats way too many bowls of soup. Back on the farm, I'm shaking a chestnut tree to get the nuts to fall, then collecting a singular artichoke crop so that I can make the ghostly stew recipe, leaving only one more recipe to go. I'm sure you guys and gals can tell we're starting to get into a pattern around day 186. This late in the game, there isn't much to do if you've been super efficient like I have. Most mornings are spent milking animals, watering crops, and harvesting any ripe vegetables in the fields. And of course, you gotta keep tabs on the coop animals, and going in there to top up their food and get eggs. The first and 6 days of every season at least are kind of interesting because you have some requests to do. After collecting some tree fruits, I go over to Gary's house and give him a fish, and then I run over to Vesta's to complete her request for some golden wool. And then I finish the day by watering crops and doing another round of harvesting. And that cycle continues on day 187. I milk some animals in the pasture, water all the crops in the amazing field, and cut down some ripe 2nd and 3rd gen crops, and dump whatever I don't plan to use in recipes in the seed maker. What is different about today is that Prancer gets sold to the city, since I don't really have much use for her now. So I say goodbye to her and wish her luck as she heads to the city tomorrow. And just like that, tomorrow's here. It's day 188, and I've got some golden wool to collect and some musical themed crops to harvest, along with some strawberries and a cookie crop on the other side of the field. All those crops I put in yesterday have been transformed to their seed form, so I get the machine restocked, and then it's over to Vans to make 135,000 G. Once again, money's not super important now, but I keep selling the van instead of just putting it in the shipping bin so that I can get as much as I can and see how much money you can actually make if you're super efficient. More crops are ready for harvest in the afternoon, but now it's the moment everyone's been waiting for. I finally have all the necessary ingredients for the final recipe, the sugar house. I've officially cooked every single recipe in the game and completed that section of the encyclopedia, which finishes off day 188. A nice rainy day 189 means no watering for this little fella, so we're out in the fields just harvesting a bunch of crops. Of course, I'm going to get the seed maker emptied and filled back up again before I hit up the chicken coop to check up on all my birds. The one interesting thing I did today was start my dairy empire by purchasing a female star cow. Rain eventually turned to snow, so I threw on my Christmas sweater and got back to farmer mode, harvesting some ripe pea crops and some carrots to finish off day 189. On the final day of autumn, day 190, I have a bunch of dirty animals to clean and a bunch of crops to water. This late in the season, there isn't too many crops to harvest, but the ones that are ripe get scythed down and placed into the seed maker. The birds need a lot of feed, so I get their box refilled once again. And then Takakura arrives back on the farm with my new star cow, who will be named Petunia. The afternoon is spent harvesting all those ripe crops remaining in the field, including the chochines and eggplants, before ordering yet another female star cow. I got the money, why not spend it, right? Day 191 and the first day of winter begins in the seed maker, collecting our haul and getting into the field to plant a whole bunch of stuff. Of course, I would be a terrible farmer if I didn't water these bad boys. Then it's time to continue my dairy operation by purchasing yet another star cow. It looks like Pooey and Kate have some requests on the board this morning, so Kate gets herself a Banorange fruit, and Pooey gets a regular old turnip. The star cow I ordered yesterday has arrived with Takakura in tow, and she shall be named Piccolo. After having a chat with Cece, I ran into Matthew, who seems to be slacking off and not getting the turnips that Cecilia requested. It would appear that Matthew's easily distracted, so our plans to get lunch get cut short since he actually has to do work. It's been a while since I gave Pooey some cash, so I hand over 50G to finish off this day. The second day of winter, day 192, is super exciting as Plankton the goat has finally matured. That means the animal section of the encyclopedia is finally complete. So I get Plankton sold off to the city and give him a cuddle goodbye as he makes his way to his new owners. I get the crops watered in the morning and welcome our newest farm member, a star cow named Puzzle. That evening, I run into Matthew talking to Takakura. He asks if I want to join for dinner, but I still got some stuff to do. I don't really have anything to do, but you don't get to see this portion of this hilarious cutscene where Matthew gets the door slammed on him if you don't select the option, so I'm gonna select the option. To feign that I am working, I shake down the orange tree to get some fruit, and then I finally meet up with with Takakura, Matthew, and Vinny in Takakura's house to have a boys' night. Of course, Matthew's griping about how Cece is always on his case about, being a productive member of society. Could you imagine that? And I tell him that Lumina's just as great as ever. Then Takakura drops some sweet knowledge as Matthew leaves for the evening, and we end day 192. I'll be honest, nothing entirely interesting happens the next couple days, so I'll just hit the highlights. On day 193, Van came to town and I made around 132,000 G selling stuff to him. My newest star cow arrived on the farm on day 194, and I named her Plax. Lumina and I attended the Starlight Festival the evening of day 195, but I could no longer wish for Luna to have a farming interest, so naturally, I wished for the continued health of myself and my family. Luna, however, also made her first appearance at this festival, and Lumina got sentimental thinking about how it was only yesterday that Lumina was a baby and we were holding her and just, it's just cute. On day 196, I picked up a couple of requests from Chris and Muku Muku. They were fairly straightforward to complete as Muku Muku wanted a fish and Chris only needed some butter. I did get my 85th wonder from completing 90 requests, so, that's pretty pog if you ask me. The morning of day 197, another male chicken hatched, so Pooper 6 was welcomed to the world and instantly sold. And for those curious, I am taking care of my animals when I'm going through this highlight section. I wasn't just sleeping through the days or anything like that. Van was back in town on day 198, and I was able to make around 176,000 G on this day. And then Luna decided to lend a hand with the birds on a rainy day 199 as I went to the crop fields and collect some ripe crops. And that's what I did on day 200. I harvested some crops and checked in on the ones that would probably die when the seasons change. And that's about what I've gotten up to in these last 100 days of Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. I've collected 85 of the 88 possible wonders, I've made almost 5 million G, and I've got a full barn of animals that either give milk or golden wool. Most of the encyclopedia has been completed, and if you want to pause here, you can, but I'm kind of just flicking through all the little subsections of the encyclopedia. So the animals, the byproducts, the crops, the recipes, the fish, the tools, facilities, minigames, and resident sections, the ones that I've already completed and that you've already seen throughout this video. Again, if you want to pause and make sure that I've done it, there's a little crown there, but that's on you. The only sections I have yet to complete are the archaeological finds and the record sections, but those are impossible to complete at this point in the game anyways. So I guess that's it for these 100 days. It was at this point, 200 days in, that I realized that there was only one more chapter left. Only 40 more days to finally complete this story that A Wonderful Life spins. There's only a couple more wonders to find, cutscenes to see, and a handful of items to tick off to complete the encyclopedia. So, I decided to forego a part 3 for this series and finish it right now. Fair warning, we are gonna jump between days pretty quickly, but it should still be pretty interesting. So, enjoy this epilogue. I start year 6 as Lumina mentions that Luna hasn't come home just yet. So I go off to look for her and find her in Daryl's lab, helping with some experiments. As the passage of time continues to wear on my body, we are really starting to look even older. But it looks like Luna is starting to help around on the farm a little bit more, since our stamina isn't what it used to be. On day 201, Lumina asks us to go on a walk and enjoy the springtime weather. We walk all around town and eventually end up at the waterfall, where I thank her for the fun date. Later that afternoon, I enjoy the New Year's festival over down at Romana's, as Lumina plays the piano to everyone's delight. That evening, I have finally collected enough wonders to meet the Harvest Goddess. I guess mortal eyes can't fathom her beauty, so I stare at a white screen for a couple minutes as she tells us that she will ask some other gods and goddesses to give Forgotten Valley their blessings. On day 202, I catch a cutscene with Tay and Lou as they chat about their own personal love story that we've borne witness to over the last couple chapters. It's a very sweet and cute moment that you have to see if you play A Wonderful Life. On day 203, I finish up getting an entire coop full of egg-laying animals as I name our final female chicken princess. That afternoon, I have a chat with Luna and collect the final record that I needed for the encyclopedia, My Racing Heart, which gets us a nice little crown for that section. Down at the beach, I catch Takakura and Luna having a talk about what Lumina and I were like before we got all old and wrinkly. But Luna ditches me and runs after Takakura. The majority of day 204 is spent in the dig site looking for the final items. Today, I found the footprint fossil and the Millennium ore. And I have to skip all the way to day 207 to find the last dig site item, the stone wheel, which not only gets us a nice little crown in the archaeological items section, but it also signals the completion of the entire encyclopedia, a monumental achievement. There's nothing left to see in spring, so we skip all the way to summer on day 211. We run into Nami down at the inn where she is talking about doing something for Tay and Lu, but isn't exactly sure on what to do just yet. That evening, Luna asks if I'm going to take a bath and offers to scrub my back for me. Obviously, this is embarrassing, but she won't take no for an answer. I then get another heartbreaking but beautiful cutscene where Luna and I enjoy some time together like we did when she was just a baby. If you've played A Wonderful Life and you haven't finished the game or you haven't got this cutscene, you should finish the game, get to chapter 6, or start a new save so that you can see all these cutscenes, because these last chapter cutscenes really do hit you in the feels. We moved on to day 212, where I watched the fireworks festival for the final time. As the fireworks popped into the sky, Luna and Takakura went back to the farm, leaving Lumina and I at the beach to enjoy some alone time. And just like that, summer's over. I skip all the way to fall on day 221 to give Sully an item that he requested and give Takakura an eggplant. Those two requests were the final ones I needed to find the charismatic superhero wonder for completing 100 requests. This is my 87th and penultimate wonder, meaning that the only one remaining is by finishing the game, finishing this chapter and reaching chapter 7. That afternoon, 𝐕𝐻𝐷𝐿 shows up at my house asking for Luna. It turns out that Luna seems to be doing some studying under 𝐕𝐻𝐷𝐿, and he gifts her some books about ancient philosophy. Seems like Luna really does love the world of academics. On day 224, we find Nami once again chilling at the inn. It seems she's finally figured out what to do for Tay and Lu, and decides that we need to throw them a wedding since they've never had a formal celebration. So Van, Nami, Rock, and I meet them at the bridge in the pouring rain and officially wed Tay and Lu in holy matrimony. As the leaves turn over for the final winter, I catch Luna and Lumina having a little chat outside the house on day 232 about living in Forgotten Valley for all this time. They talk about Luna possibly leaving the valley, but taking all the time that she needs to actively decide that. And of course, they leave the light on for me as I'm finishing up my farm work. And finally, it's day 240, the last day of the story, so I decided to throw on the default farmer outfit and show you guys everything I did on this last day. I started the day by checking Luna's diary like any father would. I had one final chat with Garrett, Matthew, Vesta, and Cecilia, and I also scrubbed Nina's grave for the final time, which I finally got a perfect score. Of course, I did so well, I got to see Nina in the material plane before meeting up with her tomorrow. Then I went to say goodbye to all of my animals. Every single one of these cute little bastards that I raised and loved for all these years got one last moment with me, their owner. And of course, I couldn't leave out Ponyo the cat and Poncho, so I do some final training with him. I said goodbye to Nami down at the river, Muku Muku and Pui over at the Goddess Pond, then ran into the Harvest Sprite hut to give my love to Ace, Jack, and Hart. Down at the dig site, I did one last hunt for rare items with Carter and Flora, and had a chat with Kate. Over at the inn, I had one last talk with Rock, Lou, and Tay, and then went over to the cafe to say goodbye to Molly and order one last sandwich from Gavin. 𝐕𝐻𝐷𝐿 asked how I was feeling, and of course I had to lie and tell him that I felt great. I talked to San inside her house and then ran into Chris near Gordy's house. Gordy was all business as usual when I said goodbye to him, and then it's over to the Fireworks Bros hut for one last chat with those two guys. I also finished another request of Cole's for good measure. I say goodbye to my pseudo-grandmother-in-law, Romana, who now looks much younger than me somehow, and then I stop by Sebastian's kitchen where he tells me Lumina's favorite dish, That seemed auspicious, so I went straight home and made some sweet potato tarts as a final treat. That afternoon, I said goodbye to more people, including Daryl, Gustafa, and Hugh, then gave Lumina her favorite meal. I also made one for Luna, since I bet she would like it too. Sully finally came back from work, so I talked to him down by the swamp, and then went over to Takakura's house to have one last chat with the first person I ever met in Forgotten Valley. Of course, I had one last little talk with Vinny, and then I took in my farm with all my animals and all my crops and all my trees one last time, before wishing Luna goodnight and hopping into bed with Lumina. My final moments with Lumina came as we were just admiring the view outside her bedroom. I told her she looks as lovely as ever as I've gotten old and gray. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. And it appears that I've reached the end of mine, as Baddock has to give Lumina and Luna the sad news of my passing. Cecilia, Nami, Pui, and Carter all meet down at the local watering hole and lament the loss of their dear friend, as Molly chimes in and tries to cheer everybody up. Father Time is undefeated, so of course time goes on without me. Luna seems to have really committed to becoming an academic. She even decided to go to university in the city. That left her mother, Lumina, to run the farm, and of course, Takakura can't retire. But as I said earlier, life goes on. It might be a bit lonelier in Forgotten Valley, but it's still as busy as ever. Everybody's still running around and got stuff to do. It appears Takakura is feeling his age too, but he's excited to meet up with me and my dad and run a farm in the great beyond. And so, our story ends, as we get one last moment to cherish and savor the life we built in Forgotten Valley, with Lumina, Luna, Ponyo, Poncho, and Takakura. And I think it isn't too far-fetched or too cheesy to say that this life, from start to finish, was indeed a wonderful one. As the credits roll, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for watching my video. As I was writing the script for this video, it was impossible not to get choked up. This game, the original and the remake, means so much to me as a person and a content creator, and it's bittersweet to see this story play out knowing I'll never get to have the same experience ever again. So yeah, that's the end of the video. It would be dope if you could subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so that you can let me know that you really like my content. If you want to help me out even more, you could smash the like button so this video gets recommended all over YouTube and everyone can discover how brilliant this game really is. If you really want to get involved with the community that we've built here, you should follow me on Twitter and Twitch. Those links are in the description. Another link that will be in the description will direct you to my personal Discord server. There's so many wonderful people over there, and we all have a really good time. So you should join, and I'm sure everyone will welcome you with open arms. And that's about it. And so again, I want to thank all you guys and gals for watching this video and experiencing this journey with me. And I hope that I will see you in my next video.